Good morning, everybody, or good afternoon, depending on where you are. Thank you to Jay Powell and the group for letting me speak today. I'm excited to be here and happy to talk to everyone and go through this presentation. Just by way of background, I am an attorney. I am licensed in California. My office is in Newport Beach, about halfway between LA and San Diego. I've been involved in the game industry now since for over 25 years, since 1992. I represent primarily developers and just a handful of other people, but I represent creative types, I represent animators, I represent music people, programmers, game development studios. Some of my clients include Obsidian Entertainment, Spark, if you remember them, G5 Entertainment, Planet Moon Studios, and Heavy Iron Studios, and a bunch of others. So I've been doing this for a very long time. I've represented quite a few people. I've worked with all of the publishers and pretty much all aspects of the game industry and all platforms. So I have a broad background doing this type of thing. I just want to talk a little bit today about how to start your own video game studio. That is how I got started in the industry. Is I had some friends that were, as an attorney, I went out to work on my own, and I had friends that were outside the legal profession, and most of them turned out working for video game studios. They worked for Virgin Interactive or Interplay back in the day, and I was the only lawyer they knew, and they wanted to start their own studio, so they came and talked to me, and one thing led to another, and ever since then I've been representing game studios. Now I'd say about 75% of my practice has to do with representing game developers and people who supply services for the game industry. And I also do a fair bit of trademark licensing, being here in Southern California, for extreme sports like the surf industry, skateboarding, and other kind of extreme sports. But it's mostly licensing type work. Just for a little background for today, I am very open for questions, and I would like this to be as interactive as possible. We have a comment stream set up, so if you want to type in any questions that you might have as we're going along, I would be happy to entertain those questions as we go, and we'll also have some time at the end to go through those questions. So without further ado, we will get started. So I'm assuming most of you have some experience in the game industry. You've been working for a couple of years. You're either working for a publisher or you're working for another game studio, and you want to go out on your own. And like I said, that's how I got started in the industry, and that happens to be how most of my clients come to me. I tend to be their first lawyer, and so I have a lot of experience taking care of these types of issues. First thing you want to do if you want to start your own game studio is kind of make a plan. Think about what it is that you want to accomplish. Why are you starting a studio? Do you want to make a game? Do you want to make original IPs? Do you want to do licensed work where you're kind of doing work for hire, doing ports for other people, taking established games and porting them to other platforms? Or do you have some sort of specialty that you want to do? Do you want to do music for video games? Do you want to just do animation for video games? Are you a specialist in kind of like Sony PlayStation programming and optimizing that? Do you want to do that type of work? Do you have some tools that you'd like to do? Or you have asset libraries? Are you great doing 3D models and you want to set up libraries of 3D models, or do designs for other people to use in their games? Are you great at doing concept art? I represent several concept artists, Massive Black and some groups like that, where all they do is concept art, design characters, design worlds, do the high level work in the background. So, but in terms of making a business plan, pretty generic type advice, but think about what you want to do. Have a plan as to what you want to do. What are your goals? Is it that you want to be your own boss? Is it that you want to create original IP? Do you just want to skip away from having a boss? You want to, are you starting a family? Are you just in a place in your life where you want to have a lot of freedom to do other things rather than just, punching a clock or being at a studio from 9 to 5? Do you want to create a franchise? Do you want to, do something where you've got really big dreams and you want to create something where you're going to have hundreds of employees, and you want to do the next massive multiplayer online game, or you have a really original idea, you want to be the next Roblox or Fortnite or something along those lines? Or is your goal ultimately, do you want to do an IPO or do you want to sell out to one of the big studios? All of these things are, it might be part of a 5-year plan or a 10-year plan, but these are all things that you should think about and have a plan as to what you want to do. Think about how do you want to organize? How, do you want to, who's it going to take to be, part of your team? What type of work do you want to do? And all of this stuff is stuff that you should really give a good long think to. Think about even writing up a business plan, and it can be a 1-page business plan, or it can be a full-blown, 50-page business plan with detailed timelines. But you'll want to go into this with some detail and be deliberate about what you want to do. And I always encourage people to actually write it down, because it is always helpful to keep you on path. You don't want to get distracted. And you actually want to have goals so you're actually moving forward. And you want to actually revisit this plan, if not every year, maybe every 6 months, to make sure that you're still on plan and you're on target and you're moving to what it is that you want to do. Think about what your time horizon is. If you have a job and you have responsibilities and you're taking down a good salary, at some point you're going to want to think about, okay, when do I want to start this process? What steps do I have to take to move into this plan? If you're in a job, you're going to have to give notice and kind of, you want to leave, gracefully from your current position. You want to think about what steps do you need to take in terms of, if you're going to have a team, if you're getting together with, 3 or 4 other people, they're going to have to leave their jobs. You're going to have to arrange for insurance. You want to be covered for healthcare. If you have families, especially, you want to be covered for healthcare. You want to know that you have money to pay your rent or pay your mortgage. How long of a window do you need to make that happen? Have all of this planned out so you can go about this methodically. Another big question, do you want to incorporate? I think this is a really good idea, but it is, it's not a free step. So you want to think about this and include this in your business plan. And there's, a corporation versus a limited liability company. For me, that's really an accounting question as to how you want to organize yourself. If you're a one-person, sole shareholder, you're going to be the boss, and sometimes it's easier to be a corporation. If you're going to have more than one person, it kind of becomes more of a toss-up between a corporation and an LLC, and then it's just a question of how protected do you want to be. So, question about why you would want to incorporate is it is for your protection. You're going to be taking on responsibilities. You could be signing contracts, that could be worth, tens of thousands of dollars, hundreds of thousands of dollars. Or if you're going for like a AAA title with a major studio, it could be, tens of millions of dollars of liability that you're taking on. You're going to have employees. You're going to have other people working for you. You're going to be signing leases. there's going to be a lot of responsibility there. The main reason for doing a corporation is for peace of mind and a level of protection. If you have a house, if you have assets, if your partners have homes and they have assets, a corporation is an easy way to protect yourself against those liabilities. If the corporation signs the contract and the corporation signs the lease, if we get hit with a major pandemic, say, just hypothetically speaking, and suddenly everything goes upside down, it offers you just a level of protection that it's the obligation of the corporation, it's not your personal obligation. And it allows you some opportunities to, avoid that type of risk. And so that's an important consideration. If you're 24 years old and, you're just, don't have a lot of, haven't built up a lot of assets, you're thinking like, oh, that might be a headache. But once you do have some assets, it is important for that. The other reason you want to do that is you've heard the phrase, good fences make good neighbors. If you're going to have business partners, I always recommend that people incorporate, because it's a bright line where what are your responsibilities going to be? What is your relationship going to be to one another as co-owners of this business? I think most people have an understanding as to what it means to be a shareholder, as opposed to being just kind of a loosey-goosey type idea of, oh, we're business partners, or we're going to treat each other equally. If you each have to contribute money into the company, even if it's $500 or $1,000 in order to get your shares, then everybody kind of understands, okay, this is my ownership stake. This is what I have invested. And you understand what your relationship is to one another. In this regard, I also tell people, be very thoughtful about who you bring on as business partners. Some people are ready for the responsibility of being a shareholder in a corporation. Other people, really what they want to do is they just want to make games and have fun. Once you are the owner of the company and you are an officer of the company and you start hiring people, you're responsible for making payroll. You're responsible for paying rent. You're responsible for signing the 25, hopefully the 25 or $40 million contract to make the AAA title. Some people are prepared for that. Some people are just not prepared for that. So think about who you want to have as your business partners. Understand that you're going to have to compromise and you're going to have to make some joint decisions that are going to affect both of you. Are your business partners the type of people that are responsible and can make these decisions in a professional way? Or are they people that are super talented and you want on your team and you just want to pay them as an employee and reward them, handsomely with a revenue share or a profit share or a royalty? But be very thoughtful about this. And I always tell people, be a little bit greedy about this too, because not so much these days, but back in the heyday of the internet, everybody wanted stock. Everybody wanted to be part of the upside of the company, but they didn't want to take the responsibility. So I can tell you nightmare stories of a client where everybody got stock, everybody became an officer, and they had 12 different shareholders, 12 different officers, and at most 2 people working on the game. You literally had 10 people that were so impressed that they had gone out and signed a big contract to create a video game, that mostly what they did was go out and have meetings about how awesome they were. And I was called in, I think they had signed the contract with the publisher like 18 months before they came to me. And I came in after 18 months and they didn't even have a real game design. They didn't have much concept art. They had like maybe 2 or 3 characters and a broad idea that they wanted to do a first-person shooter and some really, really bad animation. And then they had 2 programmers that were in the back room that were programming like daylights, but no artwork to interact with the game. So be a little bit greedy about that. But these are all things that should be part of your planning phase if you want to create your own game studio. And let me see. The next part is for you to build your team once you decide you're going to do this. Like I talked about, who's going to be the owners, who are going to be the employees, who's going to be responsible. Somebody has to, if you are a director of the corporation, you are financially responsible for making payroll. So all the employees have to get paid, and if they don't, it comes out of your pocket personally. Like I said, some people are not up for that. Some people are. You just want to make sure that the people that are taking ownership are people that are prepared to take that responsibility. Benefits, again, what I mentioned before. Not everybody needs to have stock in the company. Some people, you can be generous. I want everybody to get well compensated, everybody to participate in the upside, but some people are just not prepared in a place in their life where they're going to be there for the long term. So give them a revenue share, a profit share based upon the games that they work on. That works well. Next part, again, building your team. You're going to need advisors. Like I said, I am a game lawyer. I represent primarily startup companies. I have clients that I've represented from when they were 2 or 3 people just getting together with the idea of creating a game studio to, we've got one client that's listed on NASDAQ. I've got a bunch of other clients that have been sold to the major studios, and others that are just, 15 years in, they're still cranking away and making great games. So first person you're going to need, in my own interest, is you're going to need a lawyer. But you're going to need a team of lawyers, really. I'm kind of a generalist. I represent startups, so I can do corporate law. I've incorporated, hundreds of companies and limited liability companies. You're going to need contract lawyers. I've negotiated probably thousands of games, publishing deals and licensing deals. I can help you with work for hire agreements for your employees and for you being hired as work for hire, all of the kind of licensing that you're going to do. I can help with all of that, but you're also going to need labor lawyers at some point. If you get enough employees, you will be subject to local labor laws, and you will want a labor law specialist who can help you with that, because those laws change. It seems like to me every month. It seems almost like a gotcha thing in some jurisdictions, California first and foremost, where they're changing the labor laws. You need somebody who's a specialist who can keep you apprised of the changes that happen like overnight, and you have to be compliant. You're going to need intellectual property attorneys, especially if you're creating original IP. You're going to want to protect your trademarks. You're going to want to protect your copyrights, but really, you're going to want somebody who can tell you how to protect your trademarks, starting with your company name. Again, this is kind of like incorporating. It's a bit of an insurance policy. If you're going to have a name and you're going to build a company and you want that company to last for 10 years or eventually be sold, you're going to want to register your trademark. It costs a couple $1,000s. But once you have the registration, you're protected, and no one can take that away from you. You're also, at some point, you're going to need securities lawyers. If you're going to go out and raise money from venture capital, if you're going to raise money from even from different social sites. FIG and those types of places, you're going to want to have a securities lawyer making sure that you don't screw anything up. You're going to need immigration lawyers. I think virtually all of my clients, if not, it's more than 90% of my clients, end up having employees that are from outside the United States. So you're going to need an immigration lawyer to help you when that comes up. And so you're going to need a team of lawyers. I generally act as kind of corporate counsel. I think there's a lot of great people in the game industry, video game lawyers. There is a video game bar association. Lots of really talented lawyers involved, and most of them can represent startups, and they can guide you through the first couple of years. And when you need a specialist, like I don't do any trademark registrations, but I have two attorneys actually that I refer all of that work to. They're used to working with game companies, used to working with startups, and they can do it more cost effectively than me. I also know labor lawyers and that. And when you need that, I can point you in that direction. One big question comes up as to how do you hire a lawyer? My advice is it's a very personal relationship. Most of my clients end up being my friends. I have clients that I have had for over 25 years. Since I've been involved in the game industry since 1992, I still represent those same people to this day. And some of them through 2 or 3 companies. So interview a couple different lawyers, find one who you mesh with on a personal level and who you can talk to and who you can relate to in a good way. And also talk to them about how you want your relationship to be. Some people want to talk a lot. Some people want to use email. I would say 85% of what I do is via email. I'm very comfortable with that. I also, I acknowledge most of my clients, I am the first lawyer they've ever had. So I am very happy to talk to people about how to use me. I'm very happy to talk about, budgets. The second point is how do you pay for a lawyer? It's a business relationship. We understand, this is my business, it's practicing law. I am always happy to talk to clients about how I will get paid. Generally, I work hourly, but that being said, some lawyers, if you go to major law firms, they will bill you for every single phone call you have with them, every single minute that you're on in a conference call with them. I generally have what's called a light thumb on the scale. If you ask me a quick question, I'm not going to bill you for that. If you send me an email where you just want to clarify something and it takes me 2 minutes to answer, I won't bill you for that. And I would rather you send me that email than have a problem later. I am happy to work on a budget. I think most of the guys in the game industry understand is we're here to add value to what you are trying to do. So if you get a $3,000 consulting contract and you just want me to look over your shoulder and make sure there's nothing bad in the contract, I am happy to do that. And I'm not going to send you a bill for $5,000 if you're only getting paid $3,000. So talk to your lawyers. And by the way, too, if you get a bill and something has gotten out of hand, and we talked about it, and the bill was going to be, I figured, it's going to be $5,000 or $3,000, and suddenly I send you a bill for $7,000 or $8,000. Give me a call, and we will work it out. Because my interest and the interest of most guys in this industry is to make sure that you have long, prosperous careers, so that you can be, very productive clients for us for a very long time. Because it's, it's in my interest to make sure that you're happy, and in my interest that you are there to be served for a long period of time. So I want to be cost effective. I want to be adding value. I don't want to be this massive black hole of expense. At the same time, if you're signing a $50 million deal and the bill gets pretty big, just anticipate that. And again, we can talk about it beforehand so you can budget accordingly and include that as part of what you're asking to get paid. But generally speaking, it's a business relationship, and I would just advise you talk to your lawyer about how they're going to get paid. Talk to them up front. Talk to them while it's going on. I send bills out monthly like clockwork. Even if I'm in the middle of negotiating a deal, I will send a bill so everything is transparent. But talk to your lawyer before, talk to him while in process, and talk to him after you get the bill if you have any questions. That's part of what hiring a lawyer is about. Next group you're going to need are accountants. Whether you incorporate, whether you form an LLC, whether you take what is called an S corporation election, these are all questions that accountants need to answer. I'm a lawyer. I will not give you accounting advice. I'm pretty adamant about that. I wish more accountants observed that bright line and didn't give legal advice, but I'm okay with that too. But you will need a good accountant. And again, it's somebody, talk to a couple, find somebody who you're comfortable with. You're going to need advice as to taxes. You're going to need advice as to what, expenses you can take, how you organize your bookkeeping, so you can do your taxes and take care of that. We have a question here from Nightwolf. What is the difference between having an LLC for a company name and a trademark for the company name? Is a lawyer required for both or only the trademark? That's a great question. And you actually get a notice in California when you incorporate that having a corporation does not provide you any protection for the trademark in the company name. So your company name, whether you're an LLC or a corporation or otherwise, your company name is your company name. What I tell people to do when you're going to pick a company name is Google it, Yahoo it, Bing it, do 3 or 4 different search engines to see if anybody else is out there using that name. Second, you should reserve a domain name that you're happy with. Make sure you can have that domain name before you spend any money on the incorporation. And then in terms of incorporating, what that gives you the ability to do is you are incorporated and you have created a legal entity in whatever state that you incorporate in. So if you incorporate in California, the Secretary of State recognizes that name as your name in the state of California, and you can go out and do business with that name in the state of California. That has nothing to do with trademark rights in that name. If trademark is protecting consumers, the 10-second explanation is trademarks protect consumers. They don't protect people who own trademarks in a very high-level technical sense. So if I buy something that has the Disney brand on it, I know I'm getting something as a consumer from the Walt Disney Company, and it has that level of quality and everything that comes with buying something from Disney. But if you are incorporated, that just means the state says nobody else has claimed that name as a corporation within that state. To get a trademark, you have to do the Google search. You have to make sure nobody else is out there using that name. And then once you start using it in commerce, it's a first come, first serve. Whoever starts using it first has the trademark in that name, because again, you're out there, you're using it, and it's protected. When you register that mark, however, it gives you a level of protection, because then you have formally gone out through the process of giving everyone notice that you're using that name, and you have the federal government grant you basically a monopoly on using that name. So it costs a couple $1,000, but the benefit of having that registered trademark is that you've put the world on notice that you're claiming that mark as your own, and then when it gets approved, then you have a government-backed monopoly on that name, and nobody else can use it within the game industry. So I hope that answers the question. Somebody else asked, you started an LLC earlier this year. Should I contact an accountant before I even touch my taxes this year? Yes, it's going to be a little bit more complicated. TurboTax and things like that can help you through that process, but I would definitely try to contact an accountant and get advice on that. And then somebody says, you're in Colombia, H. Salam Cab. You're in Colombia, you can incorporate in the United States, being from outside the United States. You may not, however, form what is called an S corporation. An S corporation means that everything gets passed through to you as an individual. You avoid a corporate tax level. In order to make that election, you have to be paying taxes in the United States, but you can form a corporation in the United States. So, and as a foreign citizen, you can be a shareholder in an American corporation. You just can't get the tax benefits of an S corporation. Moving on to other advisors you need, think about whether you want to hire an agent or not, like Jay Powell, and there's a couple other really great agents in the industry. They will help you find work. A lot of people find work on their own. A lot of people, if you're working at a big studio or you worked on a hit game and you want to form your own thing, people are going to come knocking on your door to offer you money to make a game. So maybe you need one, maybe you don't. They are worth the money. They are worth what you pay them because they will help generate a book of business for you. But again, it's very personable. Go out and talk to the different agents, talk about what they can do for you, and then decide whether that's right for you. Insurance is something you definitely need, just the way that forming a corporation or an LLC will give you a layer of protection at night. I call it the can you sleep at night test. If you can sleep at night without having a corporation, you're not worried about liability or getting sued or having other, responsible for a lease, don't spend the money. Insurance is the same way. There's different kinds of insurance you can get, but if you have employees and say you send somebody out to Staples and they get in a car accident while doing company business, you're responsible for that. If somebody comes to your office and slips on, somebody spills a soda on the floor and they slip and fall and get injured, the company's responsible for that. Policy to cover that is really pretty inexpensive. It's a couple $1,000s. A good investment to help you sleep at night. E&O insurance is errors and omissions. You want to create everything original. You're doing your hardest not to violate anybody's other people's intellectual property, but lo and behold, somebody on your team down the line uses some source art and they copy it a little bit too closely, and suddenly you're getting faced with liability. Errors and omission insurance covers that. You don't have to worry about it. Workers' compensation insurance is mandatory. If you have employees, you have to have that. But anyway, you're going to need a good insurance agent or broker to help you pay with that. On a practical level, there's payroll professionals out there. Once you start hiring employees, you're going to have to be making withholdings and deductions. If you're small, you can get away with having a bookkeeper take care of that. On the other hand, I had an employee a couple of years ago. I used ADP. They were great. Just one thing, all I had to worry about was once a month they would ping me and I had to go into their program and click OK on a couple boxes. And the employee got paid, the taxes got paid, they took responsibility for all of that. And then mentors. I always put this in there. The game industry people are super generous. I believe they still are, but there are plenty of people out there that are willing to help you if you have questions. People that have done it before, people that have done it, that are very wildly successful. If you're respectful of them and you're respectful of their time, they will be happy to answer your questions. In my experience, find somebody that you respect, somebody that you like, and say, I want to start my own game studio. What do you recommend that I do? And normally they'll take a half hour, they'll take an hour, they will take some time and they will talk to you about that. Reading a question here. I'm reading a question that is, greetings, what do you suggest for a startup who would like to make a corporation in a different country in order to reach Kickstarter? We are not on Kickstarter's list of eligible countries, so our idea is to make a company for the startup in our country and then make another one in Western Europe or the UK, US. I would be happy to talk to you. That's a very complicated question, and I think you're actually going to need to hire an attorney with experience in that. That's a very complicated question. So that is one where you would really need a securities lawyer and somebody with Kickstarter and Fig experience to handle how you do that, because that's a very complicated question. The next, let's see. Let me move on to your next time. What is the single most common in Junie 4 asks, what is the single most common and risky red flag that pops up with new developers? I would say not planning and not paying attention to what you're doing. And then I would say is being not paying attention as to who's going to be on your team and who's going to be in positions of responsibility. Like I said, I can tell you red flags are people that are talented people, great at making games, absolutely don't want anything to do with running the company, don't want to take responsibility for making payroll, don't want to take responsibility for paying rent. They just want to put on their business. They just want to know that they own part of the company and they want to get paid. And, when you start a company, it's a lot like getting married. Your partners, are it really is. It's like getting married. Your partners have to be people that you trust and you appreciate, will be there and that you can work with on a professional level. So that would be my number one red flag, is pay attention to who your partners are going to be. And like I said, be a little bit greedy about it, but be very discerning and thoughtful about it when you do that. Next thing I wanted to talk about is, you've all heard this. It's you're going to have to understand what does work for hire mean. For most of you, this is going to be the bread and butter of what you're doing. You are doing work as work for hire, or you're hiring employees as work for hire. So you're going to need to appreciate this. I have some templates, by the way. You should understand your basic contracts. If anybody wants to email me after this is done, I have template work for hire agreements, non-disclosure agreements, employee agreements, which are essentially work for hire, but they're called invention assignment confidentiality agreements. But the main concept you're going to have to understand is work for hire. Based upon copyright law, whoever creates a work is the owner of that work. When you sign a contract with a third party to create either a game for them or assets for them, they are going to want you to do that on a work for hire basis. What that means is that at the moment that you create the work, when you are writing the programming code, or you are drawing artwork, or you're creating any kind of asset, when you create the work, if you sign it as a work for hire, then the party you're doing that work for owns it the instant you create it. This makes it very clean for them to protect that asset going forward, and if they're going to publish it or they want to register the copyright, makes it very easy for them. That applies both to people that you will be doing work for and people that are doing work for you. If somebody is your employee, by law, they are everything they do is work for hire for the company. If you are hiring somebody as an independent contractor, you want them to sign a contract with you before they start doing the work, saying that they are doing it as work for hire. That way you own it the instant that it is created. And when you sign a contract with a publisher and say you're doing it for work for hire, they own it instantaneously. But you have to be very deliberate about this and understand what you're doing. What I've got up on the screen is a standard work for hire term. And normally you want to say it's done as work for hire, but if for some reason, like if somebody starts work before they sign it, then technically it can't be work for hire, then it has to be an assignment. So this says it's work for hire. If it's found out to be it's not work for hire, I agree to assign it to the company, to whoever. And then if it's also found out that it can't be assigned, so for instance, it pre-exists and you've licensed it out to other people, then I give you a license for free as part of this contract. So it's belt, suspenders, and duct tape. But it's a key concept. You want to take some time to understand that. you want to have the basic contracts lined up for both your employees, your subcontractors, but also understanding when you go forward with a publisher. For instance, I included my template. If you want to own asset libraries or you want to reuse certain texture libraries, code, tools, you'll need to specify that you're withholding that or excluding that from the work for hire. You want to understand that up front so you know what you're negotiating up front with publishers. That's pretty quick and dirty, but and the next topic I wanted to talk about was how you get paid. Some big issues here is you'll want to understand the concept of advances. Are you getting paid up front, and then does that money get recouped against royalties, not recouped? And basically, is it a loan against your royalties? Milestones, when you set up milestones, if you're doing a year's worth of work, you're going to have probably monthly or some natural milestones when you're going to be delivering deliverables. You want to be strategic about that and set up your milestones so you're getting paid in advance, not being paid after you've done the work. So front load your milestones, the payments for the milestones. You want to get paid upon execution of the contract, and you want to get paid with every milestone. Pay attention to whether you're getting paid every 10 days after the milestone is accepted, 30 days after the milestone is accepted, and adjust your upfront payments to make sure that you're always looking forward and you're not getting too far behind. The biggest leverage that publishers or clients can use is they get you working on stuff that you haven't been paid for yet. And suddenly you're 2 milestones ahead and they haven't paid and they're not required to pay you for the first milestone. Suddenly they're getting leverage over you because they owe you a lot of money for work you haven't been paid for. Also, you want to, when you're budgeting, put in some profit in there. It's a business, you're entitled to make profit. When you're setting it up, if it's $100,000 worth of actual time, add in 20%, add in 30% for profit. So those last milestones, if they don't get paid, you're not coming out of pocket, but also that you're not just working for time. You're entitled to make profit. I have clients that say they automatically add 30% for profit. That's pretty rich, but anywhere between 15 to 30% is a good profit margin for you. Somebody's asking a question. If you're planning on going solo and not having employees, do you think it's essential to set up a company or is it overkill? Again, that's where I use the can you sleep at night test. Depending on the type of work that you're doing, if you know you're not going to get sued, you could cover that with an insurance policy. It's really what makes you comfortable versus not comfortable. And then as Garces asked, what jurisdictions do you recommend you trademark a game's name? Again, you asked the exact right question, being mindful of cost. That is a question of where are you going to release it in and how much money do you want to invest? Trademarks cost a couple $1,000s each. So it's just a question of how much do you want to invest to protect your trademark? I would most games I would recommend the United States and Europe to start with, or if you're going to release in one, not the other, start with one, and you can add trademark registrations as you go. You don't have to do them all up front. And then, let's see, Seymour asked a question, when you're working on your own company, how do you figure out your own payroll? That depends. Again, that's a question you need to talk about with an accountant, but you can do an S corporation election, which allows you to basically, you get taxed as an individual instead of a corporation, and everything comes through as income to you. And it's a matter of arranging your, your deductions and your expenses, and how do you want to do that? And an accountant can help you strategically with those type of questions. So the last thing I have here, the last screen I have is The three main keys to success, and I've now added a fourth one since I originally did this presentation, is honesty, integrity, and then professionalism. I can't emphasize enough, if you stick to these three things, if you're honest with people, if you act with integrity, where you do what you say what you're going to do and then you do it, and you act with professionalism, you will be surprised. You will never be short of work. If you overpromise and if you underpromise and overdeliver, if you do the work in a very high level and you do it in a timely manner, people will come back to you again and again and again. If you act with professionalism, and again, you say what you mean and you mean what you say. If problems arise, you address them in a professional manner. I mean, this is a creative business. Things change. You have to act responsibly. And, if somebody runs into trouble, a client runs into trouble and they want to push stuff back, and you work it out with them so they can work it out, that is going to go a long way, again, toward getting you things. And with all of these things, demand that the other side act with honesty, integrity, and professionalism. Again, if you run into a client that is a slow pay, or they are always, not wanting to pay those last milestone payments, or they're trying to, get squirrely around one thing or another, don't do any more work for them. You are a professional. Part of being a professional is that you deserve to get paid what you're worth. Make the other side pay you what you're worth. But again, do so in a way that you're being professional. Ask for what you're worth, know what you're worth, and then, get paid that. And lawyers can help with you get into trouble, but in the meantime, I run into people with problems when they're acting, responsibly, and both sides are acting responsibly. Once a year, there's a problem comes up, and I can help smooth out the wrinkles. But, I've been involved in 3 lawsuits in 28 years. Game industry, people are professional, they are responsible, and they will work things out. But just if you follow those 3 things, honesty, integrity, professionalism, that'll get you a long way. If you're doing contract work, you will never run out of work if people can count on you to perform in a timely manner. And the last one I add is have fun. When I first got involved in the industry, people used to say, if you're not having fun, you're doing it wrong. We are making games. It should be fun. You should be having a good time. You should enjoy the people that you're working with. That is, the best part for me as a lawyer. I love working with game companies. I love working with people in the game industry because for the most part, you guys are very hardworking people, and you're very passionate about what you do, and you're appreciative about what lawyers can do for you. But you're fun people. It's a fun business, and generally speaking, people enjoy their job. So that's great for my thing. But you should also expect that of yourselves. And if you stop having fun with any particular client or person you're working with, I know that. I as an attorney, I always tell young attorneys that I fire at least 1 client a year. I don't actually do that, but if a client is less than professional or less than honest with me, or just a pain to work with, I don't feel any obligation to continue to work with them, and you should do the same thing. So, sorry, we only have a minute left. Any more questions while we're going here? Or have I answered it? I think I've answered all of the questions that come through. Looking for more.
Yeah, I think you did answer all the questions. Anybody else?
Okay.
Do you have any contact info that you wanted to, like your website?
I can put it up there. It is www.jwroselaw.com. I'm going to be on the chat room as well, but if you, my email is up on the screen now as well, or it's jeff@jwroselaw.com. If anybody wants to email me, I will send those free those 3 templates to you, no charge. And if you have any questions about it, feel free to ping me with any questions, and I will do that for free too. And I will let you know if I ever need to start charging you.
Oh, here's a great question from Junie. Always with the good questions, Junie. What draws you to the game development industry?
For me, it is the people. I mean, the great clients. I can tell you, I used to work in do finance and real estate, and a lot of times people they just wanted me to do what I had to do so they could get paid. They really saw me as a nuisance and didn't appreciate when I litigated. Everybody, if you won, it was why did it take so long and why did it cost so much? I told you I was right at the very beginning. If you lost, unfortunately, I didn't lose all that often. But if it did turn out well, it was how could you have lost that? I told you I was right at the beginning, and why did it cost so much? In the game industry, like I said, people are super passionate, super hardworking, great to work with, and a lot high integrity industry. And that's, as a lawyer, you can't ask for more than that. So,
it looks like we have one more. We got enough time for one more from Oblitus Games.
Yes. What would you recommend a company on a very low budget, or even people just starting out? As Indies, a lot of Indies do not have a lot of money at all. Like I said, I'm in this business. I represent a lot of startups. I appreciate clients that are in your position, because you're never going to turn into a big client who can afford to pay me, huge amounts of money, legal fees, if I don't help you get to that place. So I am happy to speak with you. Like I said, I am happy to work on a budget. I am happy to kind of front load. I will give out the contracts for free to make sure you're covered in a minimal way. I will let you know when it becomes too much, but I love working with indies to help them become clients that, 10-year customers that can afford to pay me on a regular basis. There's a lot of other lawyers in the game industry that are also very interested in investing in clients the way clients will invest in a relationship with me. So look around, ask the questions. Somebody out there will be happy to participate. Some people will want to take a percentage of any profits. Some people want to just say, look, if it's $1,000 or $1,500 worth of legal advice you need, I'm not going to ask for 10% of your budget. I'll just do it on the prospect that when you do, sign a deal and you're going to get paid money, you'll pay me then. So I'm a businessman like anybody else. So
that's pretty.
And
awesome.
a lot of the lawyers in the game industry have the exact same point of view. So
that's excellent.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Jeffrey.
Thank you to everybody. I hope it was helpful. Have a great
coming
day.
Up next, we've got Chad Kim, 6 lessons from 6 years of player-first community management, and that will be starting in about 5 minutes. So thank you guys so much, and we'll see you shortly.
Goodbye.